You deserve a break from it all. Relax with us. We're Sacramento Smooth Jazz.
Welcome back to Sacramento Smooth Jazz. As I promised you, I have guitarist D.L. Edwards out of Sacramento. He's joining us today. And a little bit about him is that he's born and raised on the West Coast. And of course, he's emerged as an explosive force on the music scene. And you're going to find out exactly what I mean by that. But he has graced the stage with Tommy Davidson, Fred Hammond, Howard Hubert, Club Nouveau, and that list just continues. Okay. And I found out about him through one of his Christmas songs. So his Christmas song more than a year ago, and I reached out and found out he's out of Sacramento, and I was more than delighted. And we had a conversation, and he indicated then that he's working on some smooth jazz tracks. And of course, that got my attention. But I want to spend a few minutes with him today because he is just amazing. He released those tracks. He has 2 tracks, and they are awesome. And so I wanted to bring him to the show today. DL, how are you today?
I'm great, Michael, man. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome, more than deserving. But you know something? Let's talk a little bit about, the guitar. I know some things, but there's some people that just don't know. Tell us what navigated you to the guitar and when did this happen?
That's a great question because preparing for radio interviews made me have to take a trip down memory lane. Now, I've been a musician all of my life. I grew up in a musical family. My father essentially is the jack of all trades. We'll talk about that later. But I picked up some of his habits and I played everything: tuba, cellos, saxophone, and then I landed on piano around We Are the World time, right? And so I was playing that about 14 years old. And I realized about a few days ago, I've always been enamored with like Kevin Eubanks, who was the music director, I think, for Johnny Carson, if I'm not mistaken. Earl Klugh, who's one of the best classical guitarists, men of color that we have. Paul Jackson Jr., who's played everything on Michael Jackson records, and I mean like everywhere for Quincy Jones. And I've always been enamored with guitar. So it seemed as though I was taking the road less traveled, but I think I've always been, God's been setting me up to be prepared to play guitar. So my wife starts this little band called War Room Live, and all the young musicians take the drums, the keyboards, the organ, and I have nothing to play. I go to a pawn shop, I literally buy a guitar for like $60. And by the time I'm learning my first few chords, I'm playing with Club Nouveau and traveling the country. I spent a weekend with Danny Glover and Tommy Davidson and Cedric the Entertainer. The guitar has taken me all across the world, man. So that's kind of how that happened.
So no formal training whatsoever?
Not. I have guys that show me things, and I don't want to dismiss that at all, right, because that stuff was important. But I have never taken a theory class or, I didn't have time to. Really, I didn't have time to. Once my friends saw me play a couple chords, they were like, "Hey, man, you're coming to play with us." And so then I was playing at shows and fumbling. I probably made more mistakes on stage than I could have done it in front of a teacher or a tutor or something like that. But I got a few guys that I hang very, very close to who are my guitar mentors.
What's really amazing is that not too many people go that route. I've talked to individuals who've been playing since they were, single digit age. You know what I mean? You know the standard
right,
things. And
right.
to see that there's a gift within you that you discovered. And here you are, you've honed it, and now you're working with some great people that now you have some additional tracks, and I'm just blown away by it. So I'm glad to see that when I talked to you more than a year ago, after hearing your Christmas track, Comfort and Joy. So folks, I'm going to tell you right now, Comfort and Joy, you got to find it online. It's right there. And it's really nice how he opens that up. And of course, I was definitely playing that. I played it a little bit before Christmas too. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I just did, because to me it was just that good. The vibe was excellent, and it was definitely deserved. But these 2 new ones you have is really something else as well. So with respect to your experience, working with a number of people on stage. And of course, you said you made mistakes, and a lot of musicians make mistakes on stage and in recording sessions. So that's, just par for the course. But I can understand how you say you made more of them. So tell me about those experiences that has led you to where you are today.
My big brother, man, and the guy I owe a lot of my whatever happens to me to is a guy named Derek D.O.A. Allen. I remember being in a practice studio, man, with him every Tuesday for like 2 years. And he would beat me up about performance-wise and what chords to play and what chords not to play. And then one day he saw I was taking it really hard and he said, DL, remember, you're here. So when you start having feelings of inadequacy, you made it. Like, we called you back and you keep showing up. And didn't we play a gig last week? And didn't we do this gig? Or didn't we fly you out of town? He was like, man, you're here. So before you give up, because, it's taking you a little time to pick things up, remember, you're already in there. So nobody can take your place. Nobody's hunting for your job. You're the man. And that boosted my morale, man, 1,000,000%. Because now all I have to worry about is being focused to get it, not worrying about whether or not I'm going to get cut. Yeah. And a lot of guys out there and girls are playing like this may be their last time. And he took that burden off my shoulders. So even with the mistakes, I'm still in there. I'm jamming. You'll never know it unless you're a ear-trained musician and you go, oh my God, that was a bad note. Because I may stick on it a few more seconds just because. But now me and my guitar are having a conversation instead of me having a conversation with the audience.
Right.
So that was some information, man, that really freed me up. So now my experiences on stage, man, I'm taking in the moments. I played with Howard Hewitt. I used to sing Shalimar songs when I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. And then I was standing behind him. Tommy Davidson is freestyling. It's like, guitar man, hit me. And I'm playing with Tommy Davidson. And so, I have been blessed, man, to experience being on stage with some people, man, I've grown up admiring and honoring, and I'm having the ride of my life, Michael.
You're in the right place, doing the right things, and obviously in a calling that has been placed upon you that, unfortunately, many people don't find their calling. And in your gift, there are times where you may feel a little down. Having the right people around you to encourage, to remind you even that, hey, you're here. And that's a life lesson for people that being present is what counts. Showing up is what matters. And,
yes, sir.
And you're doing that. So not to turn this into a inspirational meeting, but
it can go there.
It can go there, no doubt, because there are life lessons in this, no doubt about it.
Can I add a brick to this fireplace real quick?
Absolutely.
I didn't start until I was 48 years old. I'm 51 now. So I've only been playing 4, maybe 5 years.
You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? So he didn't pick it up until 3 years ago. So if you ever had a desire, come on. It's not too late.
You're never too old. It may take me a little bit longer, but now my work ethic is incredible because I'm older. I gotta get it. It's got to get done. So I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes the first year I bought that guitar, it was in my hand 7-8 hours a day, every day, with splinters and calluses and sore fingers. And sometimes, man, I wanted to break my guitar in half. And then I realized practice is supposed to be like that. Practice is supposed to challenge you, frustrate you. But I understand too, every time I got on stage, my tone got better, my style began to improve, and then I started learning who I was behind the instrument and began to talk instead of just play. And so, like I said, man, I don't think I'd ever give this up for anything in the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, I'm speaking with none other than the church guitarist, as they call him in Sacramento, D.L. Edwards. And he's talking to us a little bit about his journey in his in his craft of the guitar, and how he's been playing only 3 years, and he has some amazing tracks right now that he has recently released. And I want to talk a little bit about that before I get into it, because I do want people to hear about it also. But I do want to get back, because I think it's important, going back to where it started with that one track that I heard and I reached out to, Comfort and Joy. Can you just give us a little bit as to how did that come about?
It was a challenge. It was a challenge. So I had certain seasons in my life where I guess you would say God was cornering me to do something different. When you talk about, especially a person like me, I'm anointed with my hands. I cut hair for 20 years. I was a technician for a company called Gurus to Go, and I work with computers. I'm an IT kind of guy. I've taught in high school. If it gets in my hand, Michael, I'm going to master it, or I'm going to do it very well, right? And so I'm going through a season where I have nothing to do. I'm bringing no money into the house. And so it is, I promise you, 3 weeks to Christmas. And some guy goes, "You're too talented to not have any music out." And he was like, "I dare you to do a Christmas song, to do a Christmas cover, man. Find you a Christmas cover and play it." And I come to my studio, and Comfort and Joy is what comes out. I barely have studio equipment. I just have what I need. And then to put the cherry on top, I mixed it and mastered it myself.
Oh, wow.
So it was a challenge. And so when that hit iTunes and people were going, "Man, that's a great song," you couldn't tell me this wasn't what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I'm like, I can sit in it's been my dream, by the way, since, and this is crazy, Hans Zimmer produced The Lion King, I think back, way back in the day, 25, almost 30 years ago now. And he did it from the comfort of his own house. Strings, orchestration, and everything. And I don't know why, when I heard that story, I used to tell my wife, my dream is to sit in my pajamas and to make a lot of money doing music in my own home. And I'm living my dream right now.
Man, you're definitely doing it. Now, as we, as you transition into your current tracks, the Jack of all trades specifically, how did that come about? What was the motivation and inspiration behind that?
When I realized smooth jazz was where I really wanted to be, I dug into people like Grover Washington Jr. and some of the guys who made smooth jazz what it is. God rest his soul, man, Wayman Tisdale, who was one of my biggest inspirations. And all I could think was, if I'm going to make Wayman proud, or Grover proud for that matter, it's got to be funky, because I like James Brown and I like that soulful feel. So what would I say if I had the opportunity? So Jack of all trades is my personal moniker, but it's also, man, that mix of soulish gospel funk, where it turns from being something you would listen to something you probably want to dance to. Like when you put it on, you feel it right away. You got the hook. You don't know the words. You don't know who I am, but you do know that song makes me feel good.
Wow. Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's amazing. Now, before we get into that, there is another track you did. Because I remember when we first had a conversation, you said, "Hey, I got some smooth jazz coming at you." And I said, "Well, then you need to contact me when that happens, because
Right.
I need to hear it. Come on, man." And when you reached out, he was like, "Hey, I'm here." And here it is, almost a year later, and you didn't forget. And here you are, you reached out. And when you said, "Hey, take a listen to this," I was like, wow. I contacted my colleague at the other radio station. I said, "Look, did you hear this?" And he did, and he was just blown away by it as well. So I'm definitely pleased that you have these tracks here. But now this other one here, because I'm going to play this other one later on, but this other one that you have, I understand we got some vocals on there. And we got some vocals, and they're very, very nice vocals. And then I find out that you know these vocals very well. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Man, yeah, that feels like home featuring my wife, Portia Edwards. And man, I've been playing behind her, man, for the last 18 years because she's a vocalist in her own right. She does praise and worship at the church, and she sings on the road. She's in gospel plays, and like I'm her number one fan. And so she comes into, we're riding the car one day, and I'm playing the track because once I'm working on music, it's playing in the house 24/7 until I get settled in my spirit. Everything's done. And so she's heard this song 40 million times. And she's humming this little tune she made up to my jazz song. And I'm just like, what is that? She was like, oh, I heard this kind of in your song. And I was like, well, won't you go in the studio since it's in the house and record it? And she recorded it. And I was just like, you made my song, 50 million times better. And so that's my wife, Portia Edwards, man. She's also my part manager, part of the management team. Like, she's my stylist. Like, I think I probably get my haircut and I'm bald the way she wants me to.
So she's in charge, ladies and gentlemen.
She is definitely in charge.
Portia Edwards right there. Well, listen, let's do this, man. I really appreciate you hanging out with me today and just, letting the listeners hear a little bit more about you and also discovering who you are. But right now, I want them to discover this new track of yours entitled Jack of All Trades. Appreciate you hanging out with me today.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Not a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a brand new track from guitarist out of Sacramento, D.L. Edwards with Jack of All Trades right here on Sacramento Smooth Jazz, man. Have a great day, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Sacramento Smooth Jazz. To continue listening to Smooth Jazz 24/7, follow Sac Smooth Jazz on social media and listen by going to sacsmoothjazz.fm.